But you're the man in charge.
I'm John. I'm Ben.
I like you guys.
What the hell were you thinking back then?
What do I need to think for?
Yeah, you and me, kid.
It's not a huge blockbuster, and I was trying to keep this list to huge blockbusters, but because Inside Out 2 comes out June 14th, June 21st doesn't have a whole lot of films that are willing to go up against Pixar. So this is called The Bikeriders. Mm-hmm. It has Jodie Comer, it has Tom Hardy, and it has Elvis himself, Austin Butler, in one of the first roles following his Oscar nomination for Elvis. This is an original story. It is, it kind of feels a lot like films that we've seen before, where it's a love triangle, it's two men and their friendship, and then the woman that kind of comes between them. It's 60s bikers. It's sort of, kind of looks a little bit like Hell's Angels. It kind of sort of looks like Sons of Anarchy, but like a prequel. Have you seen the trailers for the Bikeriders, and what are your thoughts on the premise for this film?
I have seen the trailer for this, and I'm very intrigued by this movie because not only does it have a great cast, Austin Butler, Tom Hardy in there, what has me really intrigued about this movie the most is this movie was supposed to come out last year. This movie was supposed to come out, I believe, in December of last year, to the point that there was trailers playing for this movie only a couple weeks before it was going to be released. And then Disney decided to just drop it. And they didn't want it anymore. And they sold it. And then another company picked it up, and now it's coming out this year. That has me really interested because the trailers have looked great. The actors have looked great. Why did Disney drop it? That's my big question. Because there hasn't really been any official statement for it. And I don't know if it has anything to do with the quality of the film or like if Disney just thought, oh, this is a little bit too much to put out from us, even under our Searchlight banner. But I don't see that really being a big deal. So I'm just kind of left scratching my head of like, what about this movie was Disney saying nope? To the point that they dropped it, like they got rid of it while it was only a couple days from being in front of our eyes. Like that baffles me, and I have no idea why they did that.
Yeah, that kind of confuses me too. This was a film that was on my fall movies list that I was looking forward to, and yeah, that surprised me because this is a film that I was thinking was going to be an indie movie that was going to be on less than 1,000 screens, and it was going to be one that I thought, whenever you see a film like this that has A-list talent, that has good cinematography, that has an interesting premise, but not a 4-quadrant movie that's going to attract everybody. It's the kind of thing that makes me wonder, Austin Butler coming off Oscar nominations for Elvis, Tom Hardy, Jodie Comer also kind of coming into her own now as a huge star. So this is the kind of thing that I was wondering, okay, is this going to be an Oscar bait type film? So for it to be pulled at the last minute like that is really... It's confusing to me. The only thing that I could come up with at the time was, well, with the writer's strike and with the actor's strike, then the Hollywood productions weren't in full tilt for all of summer and fall, so they needed to save some ammunition for 2024 while the industry kind of catches back up with itself. That was the only thing that kind of made sense to me. And then when I saw that the Bikeriders was getting a June release. I don't know how wide this release is going to be, but the Bikeriders to me does not feel like a summer blockbuster that's coming out mid-June. That's gonna have promotional deals tied in with McDonald's or tied in with Ford or Harley Davidson or whoever. Like, this is not one that I would expect to be a huge blockbuster. So the fact that this is getting a a June release really surprises me. And yeah, it kind of dovetailing off what you said about Disney. Why is it not releasing this? Is this somehow just fooling everybody and it's not a good film? This is from a writer-director named Jeff Nichols. And it was interesting because when I was doing my research for the films this month, Jeff Nichols he's in his 40s, but he was attached to do A Quiet Place Day One. He was attached to be the writer-director of that film. He was
Okay.
on the project for roughly a year, and then he left. Just sort of left, and then it went to the guy who is there now, who ended up writing and directing that film. So the fact that it's a writer-director who was hired and then fired for another high-profile project coming out this summer. This obviously is not a huge budget project, but it does have great talent behind it. So, yeah, I don't quite know what to make of it, but it's got really strong visuals to it and an amazing cast. And on top of that, it's really interesting because in the same way that Thomas Lennon is in every single Christopher Nolan film, Michael Shannon is in every Jeff Nichols film. So take that for what it is. Michael Shannon, like, love him or hate him, but to me, he was the best part of Man of Steel as Zod. So, So anyway, Michael Shannon also in this film. To me, all these things are goods for the most part. Anything bad stand out about the trailers for this film or the setup for this film?
The only bad I can think of is like the fact that it got pulled and sold, and I'm just like, I don't know, just like that. Like, why didn't Disney believe in it? Is kind of the first thing you kind of think of, right? Is like, what happened with it that it wasn't for them anymore? Like, that's the only thing I could, because everything else looks great. The cast looks great. I thought the trailer had a great tone, a great look, like you said, great visuals. It looked like it was Oscar baity. It was coming out around the time that Oscar baity movies come out, and then it wasn't anymore, and now they put it in June, which is, yeah, it's the whole situation with it has just kind of been baffling. And I think that for right or wrong, for fair or unfair, it does put a little bit of a stigma on this movie of like, there's something going on with you, and I want to find out what it is.
Is there a little bit of a Chapek factor here? Like, do you think the filmmaker stepped in some Chapek on the way to the theater?
That's a good question. I don't know off the top of my head well enough if this would have been made around the Chapek time or not. And it's also Searchlight, so I don't know how Disney works with them necessarily, because they're technically 20th Century Studios and all that kind of stuff. So I don't know how separate they are from that, because obviously I don't work at Disney and I don't claim to be like a professional expert or an analysis on all this stuff, but I definitely dabble in it a little bit. So I keep up with what's going on. But yeah, I don't know. I don't have to worry about the Chapek on this one too much, but something happened with it, and I'm just, maybe we'll watch it and we'll be like, you know what, that was a phenomenal movie, one of the best of the year. I don't know what Disney was thinking. Maybe we'll step out and be like, yeah, I would have sold it too. Like, we'll see.
Is there any bit of a meh factor when you see this? Like, well, it's Austin Butler playing the good looking young troubled youth kind of thing. Is there anything? Is the predictableness of it? Is there anything about this that's kind of goes into
I think only what you were talking about before, where it's like, this isn't really the kind of movie I want to watch during the summer. Like I'm looking for those Deadpool and Wolverines. I'm looking for those Inside Out 2s. I'm looking for those, excitement. Yeah, the summer movie season is here. Quiet Place Day 1, Twisters. Yeah, this one I'm like, I could see a lot of people waiting for streaming on this one.
You did a really good job of setting up all the behind-the-scenes stuff that led to this film getting pushed to summertime from fall, which is a really bizarre thing to do for a small indie film. I'm a little bit worried on two factors, and I love the three lead actors in this film. I love all three of them. But if I'm being honest, the Tom Hardy as an artiste thing, because we know that Tom Hardy loves doing artsy films where he has his face covered up, whether it's Mad Max,
right,
or
Bane,
Dark Knight,
yeah,
or what was the one where he was the World War II one with Christopher Nolan, where he had his face covered up because he was a pilot.
Dunkirk.
Yeah, Dunkirk. Yeah. So we know that Tom Hardy's an artsy fartsy guy, and that's not a bad thing, but it does worry me. Don't forget what?
Don't forget Venom.
Oh, yeah, face covered up again as well. Absolutely. But that does worry me a little bit. I mean, he's not covering up his face in this one, other than saying, okay, well, he's got a beard and he's got to, he's got to have the motor oil and stuff over because he's a biker, and that worries me a little bit. And then the Austin Butler troubled youth, doing his best James Dean impersonation.
I was thinking James Dean too. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, clearly he's channeling that at least a little bit, and
Rebel
that
Without a
might be
Cause type era.
Yeah, and that clearly I think is a little bit director intent, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
And then Jodie Comer's a very attractive woman, so the fact that she's, I hate to say dumbing herself down, but like she's the frumpiest version of Jodie Comer that I've ever seen. And the fact that they're trying to make her look very coal miner's daughter kind of thing. It surprises me to a certain extent that the love interest for the guy who played Elvis, who's playing a James Dean archetype, is going to settle for the very frumpy version of Jodie Comer. A little bit. That kind of worries me a little bit, where it's a little bit of the, they're choices, but are they? To me, that those are potentially choices.
Right.
So is the Bikeriders one that for you is the good, the bad, or the meh? And are you planning on actually watching this film?
I'm going to say I lean towards bad only because of where it's placed. I don't think it was smart to put this in the summer, and we'll see how it does. I don't expect it to do well, and I think just the behind the scenes story has really put a stigma on it for me. But I plan on seeing it. I do think the trailers look good. I think the actors in it are all talent that I'm looking forward to watching. It's just got a lot of outside factors to it where I'm like, does not bode well for this movie.
Will you watch it in theaters, or is this one you wait for streaming?
Well, if I'm gonna watch it in theaters, it's only probably gonna be to review it. But it's not gonna be like a priority. Like if something else comes up, or if I have to go somewhere, then I'm not gonna end up seeing this. But if I have nothing going on, I'll check it out.
Inside Out 2 for a second time, or the Bikeriders for the first time?
If Inside Out 2 is as great as I want it to be, I'll probably choose Inside Out 2 for a second time.
Good point. I'm also one. I think this might be one that I wait for streaming, and to me, it falls in the good category. But there's enough question marks behind it to where I'm probably going to hold off from seeing it in theaters, which does surprise me a little bit, because this is generally one that I would generally try and watch in theaters.